Greetings and salutations from Reef Ride Aquatics. I did promise you guys another story. This is my third or fifth attempt to tell this story. I'm going to try to keep everything condensed under 15 minutes. It's a doozy, and there's some things that need to be explained along the way that do take time. So I'm trying to condense this as short as possible. To set the preface for this video, no names other than myself will be mentioned or involved. So if you're somebody who's watching this and you're involved, you're not going to get defamation on me. If you call yourself out in the comments or anything else like that, it's 100% on you, not on me. So I'm keeping all names out of the scenario. So let's get started and try to make this as quick as possible. So months ago, I had a client that was starting to become notoriously late for appointments. The last appointment before I decided to dismiss them, I waited at least 20 minutes on her front porch for them to show up. Not cool, because that actually made me late for my next appointment, and I respect all my clients' time frames, and I we have a 15-minute plus or minus window, but if I have an appointment with a client at 4 o'clock, I do my best to get there, to be there at 4 o'clock, and respect not just my own time, but my client's time as well. So the ex-client was late again. I basically thought about it for a moment and said, hey, listen, bro, stay wherever you're at. I have to move on. Matter of fact, you're going to have to find another service provider. I'm not going to be able to provide you with service any longer. It's just getting too much. So that went on, and whatever it was. And I was curious, and I called around, because service providers, we all talk, called around to find out who got them. And this other guy that I used to hold in high esteem got him. So I was like, thank God. I said, bro, this is what we're doing. We service the aquarium every week, 5-gallon water changes. We got to dose anywhere between 30 to 60 mils of nitrates to the system every week just to keep the nitrates detectable. Excellent system set up. Coral's been doing fine. You got a good client. He doesn't know squat about reef tanks. So if you guys end up with any kind of issues in the future, he'll be real receptive to, the fixes. And again, I felt good. I mean, I didn't have anything personal against the guy. It was just he was making me late. So I felt good that he was still able to find good help and to promote the hobby, because that's ultimately what we're all about. So, I told the previous guy, I said, just make sure that, he doesn't always pay on time, but he's busy. So I said, but, keep the schedule regular, and you'll have a good client. So a few weeks goes by, and my phone rings, and it's the ex-client, and I can see it, and I was like, okay, I'll answer. So I answer the phone. Reef Ride Aquatics, how can I help you? Immediately starts on, you got to come back. And I'm like, you know why we had to dismiss you? And he completely understood. He's like, hey, I'll give you keys, alarm code, whatever we got to do. I need you back. And then I proceeded to ask him, like I do most anybody, I was like, what went wrong? What issues occurred that couldn't be resolved? And he starts in and he says, after his first visit, all the fish were dead. And I'm like, okay, whoa, back this up. I said, was it within 24 hours? He said, yeah, a few died an hours after he left. He said, and woke up the next morning and, the rest of them were all dead. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I said, did he come and check it out? Did he give you any kind of explanation? And the explanation was the air fresheners that he had in the room, which have always been there. And I've been servicing this client for over a year. So the air fresheners were always there. So that didn't make any sense. because the corals would have reacted to any kind of pollutants in the water. long before the fish ever would. So that just did not make sense. And then he goes on to say he took corals out of my tank because he said that they were toxic. Now, months ago, I did sell this client a Sortozoa frag, toadstool with the nice green polyps on a frag plug, and the assorted pallies. Now, everybody knows pallies are probably the most potent. So that was the first thing I went to was he took the pallies out because he said that they were toxic, which is just kind of odd and weird because everything in the trade, to some degree, is toxic. It's something that all of us should be well aware of. So that didn't make sense. So I called up a buddy of mine who also has I talked to him and I said, all the fish in the tank died within 24 hours of service. I said, that's on us, right? And he completely agreed 100%. If you have a complete 100% fish die off within 24 hours of you providing service, you need to get on site and figure out why those fish died. Because if you can't, it's on you. And that's my policy. That's the other guy's policy as well. So, and then we talked about the pallies, and we thought that was kind of weird because it was like, again, you've been in this hobby long enough, you've been providing services in the area long enough. Pallies scare you? So, talked to another service provider other than that too, and they're like, maybe they got personal issues with them or something else like that. And so like, okay, whatever. So I get on site looking in the client's tank, and immediately I noticed that the toadstool's not there and the assorted zoas are not there, along with the pallies not being there. So I called up the client and said, what the hell happened to the toadstool and the zoas that I sold you? And he says he took them out of the tank. I said, what? Regardless of the reason, you didn't buy those, you didn't pay for those. You couldn't reimburse the client for those. Those weren't yours to take. Regardless of whatever kind of BS excuse you developed, they weren't yours to remove from the tank. As far as I'm concerned, that's theft. Point blank. But let's go ahead and move on past that. So, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I've had this client for well over a year. And when we were first setting up this column tank, it's a round acrylic, almost 3 foot tall, almost 24 inches around. We're setting it up. Try to get the client to send the aquarium back. Get rid of that. He had that black sand that I don't like. And try to get all that stuff sent back. He couldn't or wouldn't. So we ended up using it. I ended up talking him into going with the deep sand bed plentum. So when we were putting the aquarium together, I put that black sand down first. It was only like 20 pounds of it. And then I capped it with like 40 or 60 pounds, whatever I needed to get my 3 to 6 inches out of the sand bed of Ocean Direct on top. So only me and the owner knew that there was like that much black sand there on the bottom. Like if we didn't tell you it was there, you'd never notice it. So as I'm cleaning the client's glass, I notice the sand is all salt and pepper. Called up another one of the service people, a good friend of mine, and said, hey, double check my math. And he turns around, he says, you're correct. I said, okay. He said, I'm just going to go ask the client one more question to verify, and then I'll call it. I went out, and the client's wife was there, so I went and asked her. I said, you were here when the fish were dying? She's like, yes. I said, did the clownfish and the small fish die within hours, and then you woke up in the morning and found the larger ones dead in the morning? And she looked at me all weird, like, how did you know that? I said, toxicology 101. Any kind of contaminant, pollutant, or toxin that would be present in the water would have a faster effect on the smaller fish, and it would take longer for the longer fish to demise. And I was asked, well, what do you think? I said, and I told him, I said, we had the black sand, it's all salt and pepper now. Somebody stirred the sand bed. Hydrogen sulfide was released into that column aquarium that's less than 24 inches around and about 36 inches deep on a canister filter. No sump, no protein skimmer. So all you had was this small opening at the top for gas exchange. Fish died and choked on it. I mean, that's all there is. Now, for those of you who are against deep sand bed plantums and stuff for this reason, don't worry about it. From a personal standpoint, I would bet anyone with a rectangular shaped tank, a sump, and a protein skimmer, I would bet anybody $500 in the total value of the fish in your tank that I could go in there and stir up that deep sand bed plentum with no ill effects. Other than it looking like crap for several days, maybe a week after the fact. But no ill effects. I don't think it'd kill the fish at all. I take that bet. Because the rectangular tanks have more surface area for gas exchange. Plus, they have a sump that's just aerating more gas exchange. Plus, they have a protein skimmer, which at best, 5 times the tank volume is what's being brought back up into the tank. So, plenty of surface area for gas exchange. In high school chemistry 101, in the presence of oxygen, hydrogen sulfide's null and void. So there's that. So without a doubt, in my mind, and based on my experiences, those fish died due to hydrogen sulfide poisoning. And that's my opinion. I've seen it before, and it all makes perfect sense. Maybe if the system had a protein skimmer, it might have helped. Maybe if there's a sump, it probably would have helped. But 24 inches around, 36 inches tall, not enough gas exchange. So that's pretty much what happened there. But again, horrible story. Always make sure everybody's vetted, because you really, really don't know. Just because they got X amount of years in business doing this doesn't make them experts. And again, I mean, it could happen to me as well, but you know, we all make mistakes, but it really comes down to how we deal with those mistakes that separates us from the other people. And I know my policy: if your fish die within 24 hours after my service, I need to get on site and figure out why they died. And I've had that happen before. But unfortunately, it was due to the client opening up the fish food feeder, which dumped like 3 months worth of food into the tank all at once. And he even had little Johnny, who thought it was a good idea to just go ahead and keep on pumping all the hand soap into the aquarium. That kind of stuff's not on us. So, but if you can't come up with a good reason, your service provider should be paying for those fish, in my personal opinion, because it could very well be something that we have done that we're not completely consciously aware of, or even seeing. But we're at that magical 15-minute mark, so we'll go ahead and we'll end it there. Just be careful, guys, who you're letting in the house and who you're taking on, because we got some winners out there, bro, and it ain't no joke. Be good, keep on reefing.